Hello. I'm basing this speech on my home essay, arguing if or by who endangered languages should be saved. And there are 577 critically threatened languages today in the world, according to UNESCO. 2 of them are found in Sweden. We have Ume Sami, that is spoken by 10 to 20 people. And we have Pite Sami that are spoken by approximately 30 people. So not so very many people speak these languages today. In total, there are 2,464 threatened languages in the world today, which is around a third of all the languages that are spoken around the world. And the question, which is quite intensely discussed already by linguists, is if it's necessary to actually prevent these languages from becoming extinct. Is it someone's responsibility to keep them alive, and if it is, whose responsibility? There are different aspects that need to be taken into consideration in this discussion, and we see a difference between languages and their actual preconditions. We cannot use the same discourse for all the threatened languages, since their history and contemporary situations are heterogeneous. And some linguists argue that it is a natural process that languages grow, that they shrink, or even that they die. Or that it is even healthy for diversity that people move towards speaking the same language. And I would argue that it's quite a privilege to be able to state that languages die without discussing the consequences of that any further than just stating the fact that it happens. And yeah, languages have died previously, they will continue to die, but it is important to discuss whose language is dying and what it will mean for that group of people. It is not only a natural death based on social development or the fact that people are today being able to travel and move across the world on a bigger scale than previously. In a lot of cases, states have actually played a crucial role in trying to kill languages, and Sweden is no better when it comes to that. During the 19th and 20th century, the Swedish state actively tried to abolish the Sami languages, for example, alongside with Meänkieli and other minority languages. And colonialization and the policy of assimilation forced, for example, the Sami population to give up their culture and their lands, and with that also their languages. And the languages were beaten out of school children, quite literally. And as a consequence, families have considered the languages so shameful to speak that they no longer pass them on to the next generation. And Hanna Uttakoski, who's a lecturer in Sami languages at the University of Umeå, she explains that for native populations, this problem becomes specifically important since language is often seen as the strongest connection to a person's historical and cultural identity. And when it comes to the Sami population, the suicide rates are higher than for the rest of the Swedish population today. And this is the case among several Arctic native Arctic populations. And one main reason is discrimination, cultural and financial often. And that language is connected to a person's identity, present, historical and cultural, is an important fact to consider in this discussion. And it is not just a language dying and being replaced with another language that you can communicate with instead. It's not simply about communication. It might mean that a person's cultural identity is being marginalized, which can have severe psychosocial effects, which we see in the statistics of suicide, for example. To preserve a language, teachers are needed, as well as literature, and money needs to be set aside for culture centers and so on. But time is also necessary. According to experts, it is necessary to spend at least 180 minutes per week actively using a language in order to learn a minority language. And that's not the case today. Most consuls around the country just spend between 40 and 60 minutes a week or offering that for students to learn their minority language, so it's far from enough. And it is crucial that states take the financial and legal responsibility to make it possible to learn the languages. And since it is often a question of resources, the responsibility has to be on the state agencies to provide the possibility to learn and use a minority language, but also to actually keep them alive. And one can argue that it is up to the affected groups to keep languages alive. And yeah, there is to a certain point. But since states, not only Sweden, have used assimilation policies to actively prevent languages from being used, the responsibility has to be on theirs. It has to be theirs financially, but also legally. Thank you.